so what are you going to show us today?
So, by popular request, I made a pumpkin loaf that I posted on Instagram. A lot of people asked for a tutorial, so I'm going to just show you how I did that. This is a 2,000 gram loaf of sourdough at 80% hydration. I just pulled it out of the fridge. For decorative scoring, I always recommend baking from cold. With scoring, the warmer the loaf gets when it proves, the harder it is to do really nice intricate stuff. So just put the loaf down on my board, sprayed it with water, and what that's going to do is help the rice flour that I put on top next to stick. And what I've been doing lately is I just let it sit and absorb into the skin a little bit before I get started. I found that really helps prevent like a dry cracking that you get on top of the skin if the loaf is too wet. So I'm just kind of distributing the moisture, waiting for it to absorb a little bit before I get to my next step. It's looking pretty good. So you might have seen pumpkin loaves that people do where it's a pumpkin shape made with twine. I'm doing something a little different here. What I'm doing is going to be achieved solely through scoring. So this is rice flour. I've heard people have luck with all-purpose flour or bread flour. I haven't tried that myself, so I can't speak to that. Alright. So what I'm going to do here is, this is just a food thermometer. It's just the tool that I have handy at my baking station. You can use a toothpick or a pencil, a skewer. Try not to use the actual sharp point of it. I'm kind of just using the side here to kind of sketch out what I want to do first. So I'm just starting with the segments of the pumpkin here. It's really nice to kind of pre-plan for these big decorative loaves. I put so much work into it, it'd be a shame if I made some kind of mistake that could have been easily prevented with some foresight. So I've got the main segments of the pumpkin here. So now I'm going to sketch the stem. I like them to be a bit hefty. So the nice thing about pre-planning this way is that if you don't like the marks that you've used, you can just use your fingers to redistribute the flour. I don't like an etch a sketch. So I've got the stem here, and then finishing it off for this 3D effect, you're gonna have the back segments of the pumpkin poking out there. Well, it's pretty good. I've only done this once before, and it was sometime last week, and I don't have the best short-term memory, so let's see. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So this is something different that I didn't do last week. I'm always just kind of experimenting as I go. So I'm pulling from the bottom of the loaf. I kind of want it to be a little bit of a different shape. So I'm just gently tugging to encourage it to come out to the shape that I want. So now I'm going to take my lom. This is a Wire Monkey Shop lom. And this one in particular is my favorite model. I really like the finger grooves here. It makes switching out the blade really easy. And then, so what I like to do is I just take it and if it's not sticky. Anyway, I really got to clean this thing out of flour more often. I clean it every day, but just with all the flour, there's a good amount of buildup. So with your long, feel free to cut as deeply as your blade will allow you. This is going to be the functional scoring here. This is what is going to keep, or it's going to make your loaf able to expand and maintain any decorative scoring that we do next. And you want to be cutting deeply because this is going to be in lieu of like a traditional ear that you might do. So now I'm just going over my outlines. And don't worry if your pumpkin isn't symmetrical. Most pumpkins aren't. I tend to like the pumpkins that are a little funkier, fun shapes. Alright, so there's the primary pumpkin scoring. So now I'm going to take some scissors. If you've seen my seashell loaf tutorial on Instagram, this isn't too dissimilar in technique, but this next part here is kind of new. In the seashell loaf that I did, I snipped away the excess and then cast it aside, completely removed it from the loaf. But I didn't really want to waste these. So what I've been doing with this pumpkin loaf is I just kind of gently snip away at it and turn it up so I can turn them into little leaves. So I'm just snipping, keeping this kind of corner piece intact. And then you can kind of just place these however you like. I can see here that I didn't get enough flour here, so I'm just re-wetting it so I can apply more flour. Putting water down on your leftover flour really helps it stick and give you a nice opaque surface that really lets your scoring pop out. It's purely for aesthetics. Flouring the top of your loaves is certainly not essential, but if you really want that nice contrast, that's when it starts to become essential. So now I'm going to go in for some detailing. I'm going to add some striations here in the stem. I'm varying both in length and depth here, because the deeper that you score, the more the lines expand, and so you can really use that to your advantage to create really interesting visual details. So now I'm just barely scraping the surface of the skin, just barely breaking into it. And then I'm going to just add some lines for texture here. I'm not really paying any mind to keeping this scoring consistent. I think it gives it a nice natural look that way. And then I'm going to go and add some wheat stalks on the segments that run to the left and right of the center. And then I'm going to go back and do the lines on the outside segments. And then I'm trying to have all the lines kind of be angled towards the center here to give it a three-dimensional shape. And so that's what I just kind of paused to consider as I was thinking about how I would do these two segments that are coming from the back. So I'm trying to think of like where the center is, where it's attaching to the stem, and then having the lines direct that way, curve in that way. All right, now to finish up, I'm going to make these leaves. So I usually start with the center kind of vein in the leaf. And then from there, just going to take this and and then I slash out it. And this, I'm also kind of going back over it, and I really like this kind of rustic look that just kind of slashing at it gives. And then for another little layer of visual interest, just go in and snip with some scissors. Alright, so there it is. Ready to go in the oven. So like I said, this is a 2,000 gram spool. And you could just take a pool of really any size and transform it in this way.
Very nice.
It's really fun to experiment. Alright, in the oven it goes. Yeah. Good morning, John.
Good morning. Morning.
So it's not done yet, but I'm just taking a peek. I'm very eager to see how the second version of my pumpkin loaf turned out. It looks pretty good so far. So I release the steam, cooking it for another 10 minutes to get color, form a nice crust, and in this guy goes. I can tell I'm gonna want more color, but there he is. There's my 3D pumpkin. Made entirely with scoring, no twine. I like to bake it dark. I really like that visual contrast, and just like I like a darker loaf. There's more flavor. The crust is heartier. That's what I'm about. I'm back. Hey, that's better. I like that.
Wow.
There it is.
Beautiful.
And then you can see the height there. I didn't lose any height in the scoring. There's enough depth in the scoring here to allow it to really expand. I'm a big fan of this one. I'm going to be making, I'm sure, a lot more of these in the fall season. I'll make a bunch and then I'll get tired of it and then I'll move on to something else. Essentially how it goes. Watch out. Don't stop yet.
For the folks at home, it smells amazing.
I can't smell bread anymore. It doesn't smell like anything.
trials and tribulations of a
It's
baker.
like you forget what your own house smells like, and then someone comes over and says something about how it smells, whether it's good or bad. You don't even know.
Beautiful. How do you feel about it?
Pretty good. I think the leaves came out better than the first time that I tried this. This is the only second time that I've tried this. And I like that. I'm glad that I ended up taking the loaf and kind of shaping it a little bit more before scoring it, because I think that helped let the stem stick straight up. There's still really good height here. Yeah, I'm happy with it. Little pumpkin.
All right, now let's get the crumb shot. Cut it open.
No.
Let's get it.
No, get away.
Crumb shot.